So I just saw the menu, and I have some mixed thoughts on it. There's parts I really liked about it, and maybe I'll start off there. Some things I didn't love, but honestly, my criticisms, I'm actually a little bit conflicted on if they're valid criticisms or if it's just me and a me thing. So, obviously, film is subjective, and there were some parts that are subjective that I didn't love. I do think they did a very good job at making the movie that they wanted to make. It's interesting. I'm going to start off here where I was just before the movie, I was looking up, the director and the writers, because I haven't really heard much about them. They're mostly TV stuff like Succession. The director did some Game of Thrones episodes. So that's mostly what they're known for. But I noticed one of the writers, it's Will Tracy, also wrote for John Oliver. And I was like, oh, okay, that's an interesting little tidbit there. But, it's just not something I didn't really think about. Just a little tidbit, put it in the back of my head. And then when watching this movie, it definitely felt like, oh, this is like this is very much that John Oliver style humor I felt like I was watching. It very much had that in there. I was not expecting it to be so much of a comedy. And I think that if I went in with that, I'm telling you this pre-spoilers, I'm going to get into spoilers at the end of this video, but I'm telling you it now because I feel like, maybe if you go in with that expectation, you might actually enjoy it a little bit more because you know what to expect. Because it was definitely, it felt like a comedy, and it was genuinely really funny at times. I think those comedy moments absolutely hit. I think part of my disappointment was I was enjoying kind of the mystery aspect the first half of this movie so much that when it sort of stayed in that upbeat comedy, which isn't the movie's fault, I kind of just wanted to see a different movie, but that's me thing. That's not the movie's fault. The movie made the movie they wanted to make, but I'll get a little bit more into that in the spoilers. There were definitely some very exciting parts. I should probably explain what the movie itself is a little bit. Basically, the idea is Anna Taylor-Joy and then Nicholas Hoult are the two leads in this one. They're a couple, and Nicholas Hoult is kind of super into food. And they go out to this place, which is supposed to be kind of like, I don't know, it's the Super Bowl of eating, basically. It's this chef who's supposed to be this incredible, very well-known among food circles chef who's very good at creating this type of stuff. And then you have, Anna Taylor-Joy, who's kind of just along for the ride, is the idea. So they go to this island. There's, it's supposed to be this very good food, but then weird stuff starts happening. That's the movie. And the mystery aspect of it totally worked. I was super into it, and I would have watched the movie if it wasn't a comedy, if it was just about that. Again, it's worked. It's, I looked on the, IMDb has it listed as a comedy, horror, and thriller. I think the thriller element worked in the first half for me. The horror element just never worked for me. I wouldn't call it a horror. And then the comedy absolutely worked. So that's kind of my thoughts on it from that perspective. You also have, I thought that, the acting was good. You kind of expect the acting with, well-known names to do their job. But I really thought that what I liked about it, kind of the acting that really worked for me, was there were some of these side characters, so, the other people at the eating off of the menu who were really good. I thought those were kind of my favorite parts of it. It's kind of these unique B characters. They really took their time making those side characters work, with the exception of one couple that kind of just seemingly were just there. Everyone else, I thought I really understood who they were, what they were trying to do. All of that stuff I thought was really good and interesting. And one couple kind of was just there. They could have cut that character out of it probably, but everything else I thought totally worked. I enjoyed this movie, but again, there were some issues with the, I thought that sometimes the humor was weirdly timed, which I didn't love. I would have rather they just stuck with kind of making you feel something differently, including even at the ending, there was some humor in there. So humor, it always worked for me. I always found it funny, but it sometimes took me out of the suspense aspects of the movie, which it felt like they were trying for some suspense moments, but then interrupted it with a joke, which at that point, you're not feeling suspense anymore. So that's kind of how I viewed it. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 stars in this one. There was definitely stuff to like about it. It's a very entertaining hour and 45 minutes, but that's kind of all it felt like it was for me. I didn't think it was anything above the 3 out of 5 for me. I do think that they definitely nailed what they were trying to make. They made the movie they wanted to make, and so they deserve credit for that, for sure. It's just, it, was only so interesting for me. And I think to explain it in more detail, I'll have to get into the spoilers. So let's get into spoilers. So 3, 2, 1, spoiler talk now. So really, I think my biggest issue was like, okay, so there were some really just exciting moments. Like when they handed out, if you didn't see it but don't care about spoilers, they hand out these tortillas that have like secrets printed onto tortillas about, each person. And I was like, okay, this is really fascinating. How did they find out this secret? What did they do? How did they do this? What's going on here? One character tries to escape and they cut one of his fingers off. And I'm like, oh my God, this is super exciting. What's happening? What is the deal with the menu? I don't get this. Is this still all part of, the game? Is this all part of the performance? I don't fully get it. And then, Anna Taylor-Joy goes up and talks to the main chef guy, played by Ralph Fiennes, and says, like, what's happening? And he's like, oh, well, we're just going to kill all of you and then kill ourselves. And I was just kind of like, okay, well, that's odd. I wasn't fully expecting that to be the, it's fine, right? It's not, that makes sense. I guess I get it. But it was just kind of like a letdown. I was expecting something maybe a bit more unique, and I think my mind was just going off in a million directions trying to figure out the answer, and then halfway through the movie, they just tell me in kind of a, not anticlimactic, because it, does add conflict for the rest of the movie. Movies are about making conflict, so I get why they did it, but it just wasn't as interesting for me from that point forward. And again, a lot of the comedy, like at the very end when they're all getting burned up and then it says s'mores, like it was funny. It made me laugh. I thought it was funny, but that's all I thought. It was just a funny situation. And I didn't think anything better. Like I said, I think some of these moments could have actually worked as like legitimate story moments had they not interrupted it with some of the comedy. That's kind of what I thought there. But again, they wanted to make a comedy. Like, that's what the movie they wanted to make is. I can't criticize them for making the movie they wanted to make, but I can also still sit here and say it didn't work for me, right? Because film is subjective, and I'm sure some people will see it and love that aspect of the movie, but for me, I didn't love that aspect of the movie. I also just honestly didn't feel like some of these character motivations made sense to me. It didn't feel totally earned. Like, for example, the way that Anna Taylor-Joy gets out of this by basically reminding Ralph Fiennes of, I guess a memory that he had, and I think maybe even, reminded him of what his love for cooking by making something different. I'm assuming that's what they're going for there, but it didn't really hit for me. It kind of just felt like a way to get Anna Taylor-Joy to survive, which they didn't want to have end with everyone dying, but that's what they decided to do. I also didn't fully get why all of the cooks in the kitchen, while the other people were totally willing to die for Ralph Fiennes. I guess they went crazy as well. That didn't work for me. I'm sure that there's some reason. It works for some people. Did not work for me. So just a few things like that. The character motivations, it kind of felt a little silly, to be honest, in the final act. I didn't really get it. But again, I loved the first 2 acts. I thought that was a lot of fun. And I still had fun with the third act. It was just it went in a very different direction than I expected, which is okay. So not every movie has to be exactly what I expect. And part of the fun of this movie is that it very much is a unique movie. So again, I liked it. 6 out of 10. It feels about right for me. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Did you see the menu? What did you think? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.